BioBalance Healthcast, episode 194. Lose weight by changing your behavior.
BioBalance Healthcast features conversations about positive aging. Your hosts are Dr. Kathy Maupin, Medical Director of BioBalance Health and a leading expert in treating symptoms of aging, and Brett Newcomb, a licensed professional counselor.
Welcome to the BioBalance Healthcast. Dr. Maupin and I have been doing a series of healthcasts on the myths of hormone replacement versus the facts of hormone replacement, and our most recent healthcast was on the myth that if you replace your testosterone, you will get fat, you will put on weight. We talked about that and that issue in our last podcast, but we got more into the weeds about healthy eating and healthy lifestyles than we were able to do in that podcast. So we decided we would come back in this podcast and we'd talk about the things that you need to do to supplement or complement what you do when you replace your testosterone in terms of weight control, muscle strength, healthy living lifestyles. So today we're going to be talking about all of those things. And I want to start with a conversation that not all calories are the same.
For everyone.
For everyone. Because you can't just count total calories. You have to be conscious of certain factors that contribute to your weight status. So we're going to start with that.
It's like when a patient comes to me to begin with, and I go over the factors of weight gain with them if that's one of their issues. And that is that your genetics determines how easy it is for you to lose weight, first of all. And that's very important. So if you're sitting next to your sister and you have your genetic makeup that makes it very difficult for you to lose weight, and your sister got the genes from your other parent that caused her to be really skinny, but you eat the same amount and you gain weight and she doesn't,
right,
even if you had the exact same activity level, then that's just what you were born with. We all have crosses to bear, and that's one of them. If you have a slow metabolism to begin with, that's really something that we can't change. Okay, so we have to start there. So a calorie for both of you is not equal. One, you will gain more weight than your sister. So genetics is something we start with. Then when you get to me, you're a certain weight. So if you're 100 pounds overweight, then that is going to be a longer, more tedious task to get you down to an ideal weight with a BMI less than 25, because that's ideal. That's where a BMI is your surface area, basically your height and your weight, in a formula that tells us whether you are at a healthy weight or not.
Your
it's
body
not
mass
perfect.
index, mass meaning weight, which could be fat or muscle, but it's the density or gravity of your body.
It's not perfect.
No.
But
It's a
it
rule of
gives
thumb.
us something for us to look for in terms of, are you healthy or not? But one of the, so the weight to begin with, our genetics, your behaviors, the behaviors like, I talk to people about the junk food they eat and things like that, and they're like, yeah, I have it all in this one cabinet. And I'm like, okay, so today we're starting this new life. And I'm going to replace your hormones. You got the genetics you've got. You're starting out a lot overweight. You're going to go home and you're going to take all that food, and if it's not open, you're taking it to Goodwill or where a food pantry, and then you're dumping all of that and fill that closet up or that pantry up with something else, not junk food. And all the rest of your family's just going to have to understand this is what you are going to have to do.
Let's talk about not junk food. What constitutes not junk? What should I fill my pantry with? Beans.
Nuts,
grains.
I mean, all the whole foods, flour. You can have sugar because you have to cook with
real sugar.
Yeah, real
that you
sugar.
have to cook. Yeah,
not
high fructose corn syrup.
No, but real cane sugar. You can use there are substitutes for that. You can. There are some granular substitutes that aren't sugar, but you can make cookies, but make them with lower sugar content. But if you buy them, if they're in a bag, or if it's something that you have to open that's already been processed,
pre-packaged, pre-processed,
it's not good for you.
Slow down on it.
Yeah,
Get
you
rid
can
of
have
as
dried
much of that as
fruits.
you
You can have, if you're talking about snacks, which is what she was talking about, she needs a lot less food in there, and she needs a lot of healthy foods.
So a 10-pound package of deep fried potato chips
are gone,
shouldn't be there.
and the M&Ms and the whatever. I know.
It hurts, Kathy.
I know it hurts. I know it hurts. And the whatever ding dongs or whatever that stuff is disgusting. That should just go to the trash.
My
I'm
wife's
not sure anybody
great
should eat
grandmother
that.
lived to be 102, and one of the things I heard her say before she died was, "If it won't rot, don't eat it."
That's true.
You know, if
Yeah.
you buy these foods
If
and
it
you
won't
put
go
on the
bad.
shelf, if it doesn't go bad, don't eat it.
And I mean, and if you love pasta, get whole wheat pasta or get pasta made out of. They have lots of gluten-free pastas now. I mean, or just change the amount that you eat. But these you have to. I think
But there's not a
of-
magic bullet. I mean, you
No.
can't just go to a gluten-free diet and all of a sudden you're going to drop.
Oh,
20
I didn't
pounds.
mean that.
No, but a lot of people think that, and they're looking for that.
Well, the only reason
I
that
want
works.
a quick fix.
The only it does work for some people because there's gluten in almost every carb, so you can't eat carbs.
Yeah.
So they just look at it differently. I say don't eat carbs, and they say don't eat gluten, and that makes them lose weight.
Well,
but
and-
it's a different avenue.
And you're talking about genetics and metabolism. I can remember that when I was younger, if I wanted to drop 5 pounds, I could just stop eating bread for 2 weeks, and I'd drop 5 pounds. Now, I don't eat bread at all, but I still have that 5 pounds.
Yeah, our metabolisms. I mean, we have a lot more testosterone, a lot more growth hormone when we're young, and we do burn calories easier for most of us. Not everyone has had that experience, but so those are some of the things that we talk to people about is, and I want you to talk about behavior, but the last thing on my list is exercise.
Right.
And actually planning your diet a week ahead and writing down everything you put in your mouth, because then you have to look at it. Yeah, I mean, I've done that before where I've had the pen in my hand and crackers in the left hand, pen in the right, going, I don't want to write it down, put it back. I mean, that works.
Absolutely works. Being conscious and deliberate about your food choices. We get on autopilot. In this culture, we are encouraged to be on autopilot. Just drive through the fast food joint, grab a bag of something, eat it on the way to the soccer game because it's more efficient. But it isn't more healthy. And if we buy our food in a deliberate and conscious way, go to fresh markets where you can get fresh tomatoes and fresh greens and fresh corn. It makes a difference if you plan your meals and you buy the
absolutely
ingredients for the meals you've planned. You just don't go and grab bags of stuff and that have been prepared and cooked because you're going to be in a hurry. And so, Wednesday night I'm going to be home late from work, and then I've got a meeting at church to go out to, and I got to get dinner for the kids. And so if I buy this frozen lasagna, I can pop it in. Sometimes for emergency situations, you can certainly do that.
It's easy to make
but
a
as
salad.
a daily lifestyle, you don't want to do that, and you don't want to teach your kids that.
I mean, when I delivered babies and had Rachel at home, and I would, on Sunday, I would make things that were
Yes.
partially cooked
Yeah.
that I could either freeze for the end of the week or put in the refrigerator that could just be
But you-
put on the stove. But I planned it, and I also had I always had vegetables. My goddaughters always would laugh. They say, we'd come over and look for stuff to eat, and your refrigerator was so weird because you always had eggs, bread. I mean, they know what I have in my refrigerator all the time: eggs, bread, orange juice, milk, whole milk, because
Not
whole
skim.
milk
Yeah.
fills you up, and skim milk you just keep drinking it and you're never full. So whole milk, half and half, and you always had like lean turkey and Swiss cheese to make sandwiches,
Right.
and all the salad stuff. So they knew what was in my refrigerator, and they're kind of like, what can we do with that? Where's the junk food? So, yeah, we had junk food, but we hid it somewhere else. And that was,
Locked it away.
I have to admit, but I'm not saying that was good. I'm just saying that was my failure or my husband's, whatever. That was one of those things that
or
we all
your,
have
or
made
your
mistakes.
chosen indulgence. It's all right to do some of these things one time.
Yeah.
Or sometimes. It's all right to have birthday cake for your birthday. It's not all right to have cake every single night.
Or wine every single night.
Yes.
I mean, everybody who tells me they have 2 glasses of wine with their husband every night, so that's 4 glasses of wine. Is that really a whole bottle? Is 4 glasses of wine a whole bottle? Unless
Well,
your
those
glass is
smaller
like
bottles, you can get different size.
But in anyway, that's a lot of wine. That's a lot. You're just drinking carbohydrate. You're just putting carbohydrate into your bloodstream. It's just like eating cake or pie. So if you think that's saving you,
Yeah.
weight. It also makes you hungry.
It makes
so
you-
if
and
you
it
eat it
puts more
before,
sugar
it
in your
makes you
system,
eat more.
which
So-
is that whole sugar cycle we were talking
Right.
about in the last podcast.
So you're
that increases
defeating
your hunger
yourself.
levels. No, yeah, absolutely. Are.
And-
Actually, the Harvard Food Plan, the food plate, not the pyramid,
The
new
newest
food plate, recommends that you drink water at your meals.
Yes, and you should.
You have a formula for your patients in terms of weight loss that they should drink half their
Body weight
in
in ounces.
of water every day.
That's right.
You know, so if I weigh 200 pounds, I should be drinking 100 ounces of water a day.
That's what you need to flush. You need water to flush out fat. You need water to metabolize your food. So you should be drinking all that water so that you can actually lose weight, and it flushes it out of your system.
And part of the issue here is the food marketing industry that teaches you through all the advertising and the media that comes to you that you should have something flavorful to drink with your meal. And so you need this flavor or that flavor drink to have, whether it's soda or wine.
Something that
or-
costs something instead of out of the tap.
Absolutely. If you just get a glass of water and teach yourself to drink the water, you have to learn it. You have to break the conditioning cycle.
To think about it.
So much of your food behaviors need to be deliberately conscious. If you can do that, you can help yourself fight weight problems and lose weight. For instance, there's a whole range of behavioral things that you can do if you and your family are trying to be weight conscious and food conscious. One of them is if you've bought the classic 12-inch dinner plate,
Right.
get rid of them. And if
Or
you're-
put them away. You don't have to throw them away.
put them away where you're not going to reach for them. Get the 10-inch salad plate or the 8-inch plate.
Or bowl.
Or
Small
bowl, the
bowls
smaller
instead of
bowl.
large bowls.
And then prepare your food at the kitchen and then serve the plates. Put a serving of whatever
Don't
on
do
each
family
plate.
style. Is family
Don't do
style
family
is
style
sometimes
dinners.
easy,
It's
but
quicker and it's
you
easier.
just keep eating at it.
Right.
So that's probably psychologically a bad
If you get
idea.
a bowl and you put all the mashed potatoes in the bowl that you've made and you put it on the table, somebody's going to get seconds or thirds or eat the last of it. You were telling me a funny story about when your daughter was young and it had to do with the conditioning that you received as a child in your childhood home. And when you didn't make her clean her plate, but what you discovered, and she pointed it out to you, which is what
In
was
front
really
of all
funny
these
about it.
women at Nutricenter or
Yeah.
Nutrisystems.
That when you would take her plate off the table, the stuff she hadn't eaten before you would put the plate in the sink to be washed, you would eat that food.
Yeah, I did.
And because you were
But I
taught as a child, you don't waste food, you clean your plate.
But their answer to that
Yeah.
was a different answer than you would have given.
Absolutely.
But their answer to that was to make me as disgusted as I should have been about food that somebody else had eaten on their plate and played with and spit out or whatever.
Right.
You know, and say that's really disgusting. Would
Visualize
you-
that food differently as non-edible.
It's not edible. It's been contaminated.
Grossed out. Yeah.
So throw it away if she's not going to eat it.
Right.
But you had a different answer that you would have suggested.
My answer was to tell her to start cleaning her own plate off. You know, and so that mommy isn't exposed to this risk factor.
Yeah.
You start learning to contribute at home, and you get up and clean the table and clean off the plates.
And that's a good answer as well.
It is, well, but for a different agenda.
For a different reason.
For a different agenda.
But it worked. I mean, I didn't even know I was doing that.
Right.
She was the one that brought that
No,
up. So
and
sometimes
that's-
you have to ask your family members, do you see me do anything that you think is really bad for my weight? I mean, do
Yeah,
you see me
like
just eat mindlessly?
Sneaking
or-
M&Ms, you know.
Yeah.
Got my little stash over here in the corner.
I mean, some people will take their dish and they just keep putting a little bit on and then they eat that and then they take it and put some more on. And then they keep doing that until they've eaten more than a full plate full.
Let me run through a little litany
Okay.
of some psychological things. If you're going to try to be conscious about your food behaviors that can help you. We've already talked about getting smaller plates. We've talked about not eating family style meals. Serve from the pots and pans, especially if you have a
On the
dining room.
stove.
Yeah, you go to the stove, you put a serving of whatever on the plate, then you take it into the dining room. When I used to do family counseling, I'm retired now from that, but I get these guys, these middle-aged guys that would suddenly be divorced or alone. And they would come in, and one of the things that they would be doing as an adjustment is they would eat in front of the television. They'd be watching a sports event, or they would read because they didn't want to face their loneliness. And I used to tell them, never eat in bed, never eat in front of the television set. Set a place setting. Make eating a formal experience. Don't graze around the room with a paper plate and a pile of food. Go sit down at the
It's
dining
really
room
hard to
table.
do when you're alone.
It is
It's so hard to do when you're alone.
But if you're worried about weight and food behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
and also if you're eating to numb your depression or your distress,
Well, that's the next
if
thing.
you start to be conscious about what you eat. So you have to think about your food behaviors. So don't eat in front of the television set. Don't eat while you read, even if you're alone. Be aware, slow down. Put your fork down. Put your
and
sandwich
chew.
down.
And
chew.
stop swallowing things whole.
Oh my God!
mean-
I remember as a child, my parents would harass me about, and I thought they were trying to teach me to count, add up your number facts. But chew your food 75 times, or chew your food 50 times before you swallow. It really does make positive differences in the outcomes.
Well, there's a good reason to chew. You have
masticate
saliva
and
to
mix the
actually
saliva.
break the food down.
Yeah.
So if it goes down whole, like I learned in residency, because you didn't know when
Yeah.
the beeper was going to go off, so you just
Right.
swallow
Bolt it
your
down.
food, and 5 minutes you had an entire meal down you, and then you went running off.
My wife-
So that was a bad habit.
My wife was a school teacher for 30 years, and she had like 10 minutes to eat her lunch because she had supervision of kids and problems to solve and parents to call and things to run off and all that. So now she's retired. She still eats her meal in 10 minutes unless we consciously focus on slow down. There's a psychological hunger point where no matter how much volume you've crammed into your body, you're not going to be satiated or experience that short of 20 minutes.
Right. It takes
So
20 minutes for
you
you to
need to
feel
slow
full.
down and make your dinner last 20 minutes. Put your fork down. Chew your food. Actually say something to someone. Hello,
I actually
how are
eat
you?
less when I
This
go
is good.
out, even though the food's probably
Well, it's because
better.
you talk all the time.
Yeah. But yeah. Because another thing I learned and I pass on is
Yeah.
that eating is not always about just the food.
Right.
Eating is about
It's a social experience.
socially connecting and sharing ideas, and so when I go to a party, or God forbid a buffet of anything,
Right.
then I usually wait and talk to a lot of people that I want to talk to before I ever get near the food. And then I'm not as hungry for some
Right.
reason. So I'm not starving, and I don't try
You're
to pile
not, because
things
that psychological 20-minute point is reached. To go back to the behavioral changes, if you are conscious of serving size, portion control, and you put a portion on a plate and from the stove and take it to the table where there's a formal setting, and you eat that. If you eat it slowly, if you put your fork down, if you chew so many times, if you indulge in conversations, if someone's there, all of that stretches that psychological time so that you feel full. And what I would encourage, if you think you want seconds, a lot of times it's because your mouth is craving taste and not because your body's craving food. And if you will
or
do
fat. If we have a low fat diet, you're always wanting seconds because
Right.
you're not full.
Right. But if you will get up and do something physical, go for a walk around the house, go for a walk around the block, come back, make that break from the table and from food consumption, then you come back. Then if you want seconds, have seconds.
That makes
But
That's a
don't
good
just go
habit.
get seconds because you're still in the eating zone.
because you ate too fast.
Yes.
Now, all of these behavioral things are well and good, but we're not always perfect.
No.
And some people have a hard time when they're hungry thinking about these things. And when they, especially in people who are dieting, and when they stop eating for long periods of time, that's not good for you either, because it
No.
mobilizes sugar from your liver that you've stored up, and that dumps into your bloodstream and also makes fat. But it isn't good for you to go without eating, and it's not good for you to eat too much too
Right.
often. So if you can't get the behavioral things together, besides replacing your hormones and your nutrients that you're missing,
Right.
then what we try to do is to help our patients if possible. We have and are starting more of a diet program, and that has to do with medications. And
Right.
now there's several
Excellent.
different medications that we can use. There are appetite suppressants for people who feel like they're hungry all the time, and those are usually an amphetamine-like drug. So you can't take them forever. You take them for short periods of time
And this is kind of to kickstart the addiction process, to fight it.
to fight the addiction
So
process.
if you're addicted to sugar and you're already having obesity issues, drugs like metformin or Victoza can help you fight the diabetes and
I was going to
insulin.
hit that.
I'm sorry.
It's either
I'm
appetite
sorry.
suppressant.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I mean, we
You're
can
going in a
talk about
sequence.
that. It's
Yeah.
appetite suppressant, or it's because you have insulin resistance.
Right.
And so then we treat you with medications like metformin and Victoza that can counteract the insulin resistance.
Right.
And then there's new drugs that are just for weight loss that do both in a way. One's called Qsymia, and there's another one I'm not too familiar with.
Heard of that one.
Qsymia is a combination of phentermine, which is an amphetamine, and a drug we usually use for seizures or for migraines. And we put those two together, and that actually causes weight loss. And I have
Wow.
one of my
One of those
friends,
serendipity things where they've discovered this drug
kind of
works
like
for this.
the fen thing.
Yeah.
It's a similar idea, but it's not the similar drug.
Right.
But it works together better than either one of those alone.
Wow.
And but that's you'd have to come in, be monitored, and do
And
all
you
that.
need physician guidance.
Yeah.
This is not something you buy over the counter.
No,
and
none of
go-
these are
Right.
over the counter, and most of the over the counter things are stimulants, and they don't really work very well. Sometimes people eat more on them than they do without them. So it's very important to be on the right thing, and these medical treatments are very helpful to get people going, and then as is testosterone. If you're over 50 and you're not on testosterone and you're doing these things, you're likely not to make muscle. You're likely not to keep your weight off because you don't have any muscle to burn your calories when you stop doing the diet.
Right. So you go on almost any diet. Diets don't work because they don't change behaviors. You can restrict yourself and starve yourself or over-focus on just eating one thing, no carbs, only protein, and you can lose 10, 12 pounds. But the minute you go off the diet, you start eating the way you always ate, and the weight comes back on. So we're talking about lifestyle changes that involve diet, exercise, consciousness, not automated eating, not automated prepared consumption.
And sometimes a little help from a physician who will guide you in weight loss.
Yes.
We also have the iLipo machine that helps us, helps our patients while they're losing weight. If they have an area on their body that has more fat, like some women don't like their saddlebags on their thighs or on their hips or belly, they can, while they're dieting, actually use this laser to dissolve the fat in those areas.
Right.
So it's like weight loss. If you ran a marathon, it's the same kind of loss of fat, but it's in the place you want it. It's not all over, and you don't have to run a marathon.
Right.
Then we give them.
So if your daughter's getting married and you want to fit into
Yeah,
the dress
that's right.
and you need a 6-week shift, you can get that.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
can
not
do
a
that.
lifestyle shift, and it's not going to.
But it does help you because we give them
Yes.
we give them diet counseling now. We just
Right.
started doing this diet counseling with using the weight loss medication.
So it helps
phentermine.
jumpstart the process.
It keeps them from eating back to their weight because the one thing with liposuction and with iLipo is that you lose fat fast. Your body's hungry.
Yes.
It's really, really, really hungry. So you want to go out and eat more. It makes you. I mean, I experienced that when I tried it. So you have to stop that push, that actual push to the refrigerator,
Yeah.
and do something else. And the amphetamine allows that.
Right.
So we do that for 2 months, and then you should have changed your behavior. You should have had some time where you're not hungry all the time to actually change your lifestyle so that you can keep the weight off.
Right. So some of these things are like crutches that help you until you heal,
you need
until you
everything.
get better. But some are not. Some are true things that you continue to need for the rest of your life, like testosterone.
Right.
You're always going to need the testosterone and the thyroid to function. The supplements like DIM or things like iLipo, they're bridges across the chasm.
They are. And
So-
some people take DIM their whole lives. That keeps them from regaining a lot of the belly fat as they lose it. But truly keeping your metabolism going means thyroid and muscle, and the muscle is made by the testosterone.
So we're talking about a lot of different things. A systemic program that comes from acts of consciousness that can help you lose weight and fight obesity and change the way you and your family live.
And we all need that.
So once again, thank you for listening.
Email your questions or comments to podcast@biobalancehealth.com. You can find the BioBalance Healthcast on iTunes and on YouTube. For more information about bioidentical hormone pellet therapy and other reverse aging solutions, visit biobalancehealth.com or call 314-993-0963. You can find Dr. Maupin on Twitter at Dr. Kathy Maupin and on Facebook at facebook.com/biobalancehealth. Find Brett Newcomb at brettnewcomb.com.